Arriving at Lingayen Bay, just over 100 miles from Manila, MacArthur's forces make good his promise to return. Under a naval bombardment, the Coast Guard delivers thousands of fighting Yanks to the shores of Luzon Island, main Jap base in the Philippines. 4 beachheads are quickly secured by the amphibious forces, the Japs having been driven back into the interior by the preliminary shelling. While little opposition is encountered, one Yank stops an enemy shell fragment, and some of the natives caught between 2 fires are cared for immediately. Coast Guard and Signal Corps cameramen picture the stars and stripes back on Luzon, this time to stay until the last Jap surrenders. That the Yanks are welcome is only too evident. Amphibious tractors roll on to Dagupan. Meanwhile, other forces have seized the airstrip at Lingayen, and another spearhead passes through Binmayan on the road to San Carlos. The attack fans out along the bay and heads south. Air reconnaissance keeps the command well informed concerning the road to Manila. An important factor in the drive on Luzon was the capture and refinishing of the airfield on nearby Mindoro. A few hours after our troops landed, engineers were at work on the strip, and not many days later, the field was ready for our bombers. Jap planes continued to strike, but anti-aircraft knocked them down. This was an enemy plane. But we have our losses, too. A crippled P-38 comes in for a belly landing. And believe it, the pilot walked away from it. Destroying tons of vital equipment necessary to the Japs' campaign in Burma, RAF bombardiers pound enemy supply bases without let up. These crews, New Zealanders, Australians, and Canadians, are off for a target lying along the railway between Mandalay and Rangoon. Above the Japs' chief supply base at Kinmana, the planes go in at 2-minute intervals. This is really pinpoint bombing. Another dividend for the Allies.
Facing the brief but furious German counteroffensive in Belgium, American engineers string barbed wire barricades in bitter winter weather. Snow has no beauty on a war front for the men who must do the fighting. Troops at the front must live the best they can, and a chance for a warm meal is a welcome interlude. The man who has a chance to throw up a tent or dig a foxhole is a lucky soldier. These are the men who helped turn the tide and push von Rundstedt's forces back. From under a blanket of snow, artillerymen dig out their ammunition, for this war waits on no weather. Before long, the big guns are ready to go into action and pound the Hun. Then the platoon moves forward to clean out enemy snipers. Rifles, machine guns, and bazookas do the job. Many stormtroopers are counted among the prisoners taken, but looking far from Hitler's conception of supermen. Some of the bitterest fighting took place in the area around Langlia in Belgium. Losses were heavy on both sides, but nothing could stop the slow but steady Allied advance. Evidence of the struggle is shown in these pictures of wrecked equipment made by the Signal Corps. Troops move into the still-burning town of Vingen, also in Belgium. Retaking this key point meant a safer and surer advance. Here, too, there's further testimony to the bloody battles that have raged here. American helmets tell their own story, while the number of German prisoners testify to the fact that victory was ours. German losses in their attempt to break through will never be known, but the countryside is dotted with cemeteries. From the east and from the west, the Allies close in for the kill. The annual March of Dimes, which was climaxed with celebrations on the President's birthday, brings a flood of mercy money to the White House to help fight infantile paralysis. A visitor here, too, is 10-year-old Bobby Riggio of Brooklyn, on hand to present a check to Mrs. Roosevelt for $50,000. The check represents the money donated by radio listeners after he made an appeal over the air. His reward is a $1,000 war bond and a football he'll be able to use next year when he's fully recovered from infantile.
Sub-zero weather decorates the fishing boats that ply out of Boston with tons of ice as they return to port. The fishermen, most of whom have followed their trade since youth, claim the weather is nothing unusual, but the ice that must be chipped off before the catch can be unloaded from the trawler Plymouth calls for muscle and work. The Plymouth made port with a catch of 40,000 pounds, despite damage done by ice. The haul will find a ready market in these days of meat shortages. It takes more than weather to halt the fishermen.